I know what you guys are thinking. Tom, what the H are you doing here? It's a Tuesday. You're only supposed to be here Mondays and Fridays. Well, there is so much going on right now with the MicroStrategy Tesla Pair Trade. Semiconductors are picking back up, all into Nvidia earnings tomorrow, and Bitcoin Treasury plays are all over the freaking place. So I'm here for a special bonus episode just to get you guys caught up. I've got family in town and got stuff to get back to, but I don't want to leave you hanging. Let's go. This isn't financial advice. Past results are not indicative of future performance. Do your own research. Welcome back to the Trading Apologist. My name is Tom, and I hope you all had a lovely holiday weekend. Before we dive in, if you do find value in the content, if you could like, comment, or subscribe below, that does make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. If you missed yesterday's special holiday episode, not really, it's not like Christmas themed or anything, but because markets were closed, I did a special trading education video on how I use mean reversion to sell covered calls and sell puts. So that's back in the trading education playlist. If you're interested in checking that out, there's a lot of great alpha in there. Now, before we dive into the charts, I'm going to do an abridged version today. I'm actually going to try to do this live, just pause, start, and record in OBS so I don't have to go through editing. But we're just going to do an abridged episode today with a few of the key charts. And before that, I just want to cover a couple news events. So Nvidia has earnings tomorrow. And the reason that's interesting to me is because a lot of the semiconductor plays and the semiconductor ETF more broadly have broken down from daily RSI support. And Nvidia is right into support right now. So I'm wondering how earnings is going to go. There is no slowdown in demand for Nvidia, but I'm wondering if the market is disappointed even by the numbers that they do share, and if that could be what causes a bit of a sell-off in the semiconductor space. I don't necessarily want to see that, but it is what the charts are pointing towards, a bit of a retracement and cool off. So we'll see if that comes through. Keep your eyes on the markets after earnings tomorrow. That aside, Trump media today announced their Bitcoin strategy, and what I thought was interesting was the reaction by the other Bitcoin treasury plays. As soon as they announced that, you would think it would be bullish for the space, but all the Bitcoin treasury plays sold off. And when that happens, you can just use that to gauge how the market is feeling about the state of things, and maybe they're a bit overheated, or maybe it was just a temporary pullback today. But we're going to look at those treasury play charts today and keep an eye on it the rest of this week to see if they can rebound. The other thing worth noting right now as well is since Microsoft's quantum computing announcement a few days ago, the quantum space has come back to life. That was one that was great to play in December and early January with tons of volatility, and it's coming back to life right now. I don't have time today to get into all those charts, but I'm going to cover it in more detail on Friday. So watch the quantum space. There are a lot of great opportunities there. Just like the Bitcoin treasury plays, it's where the volatility is right now. So if you are looking to day trade or do short-term swing trading over just a couple days or a week or two at a time, that's where there's opportunity. It is risky because they're sometimes moving 10, 20, 40, 60% in a day, but there is also a lot of opportunity out there if you know what you're doing. So let's get into the charts, and we're going to start with MicroStrategy and Tesla leading into that pair trade that we've all been watching, and then I'll go over the broader indices, get into a few select stocks, and then those Bitcoin treasury plays. Okay, starting on Tesla, and like I said, I'm going to keep the analysis short and sharp today. We've had this megaphone pattern or broadening wedge pattern, which is a bit of a pattern of indecision. It can sometimes be a reversal pattern a bit more often than not, but it can break either way. It's pretty close to 50-50. And when you see a break, like we had a break to the upside today, you generally want to see that be a move with conviction on high volume. And right now, we're not necessarily seeing that conviction or high volume, but we need to keep our eyes on this to see if it can confirm over the next couple of days. We are into resistance right now at that $367, but if you're looking at this as a bull flag with a break, just like we had a bull flag with a break here, and we're just doing some price and time projections from these last two moves, over the next week to week and a half, that would have us targeting about that $420 or just underneath. So that would be the target if this break is confirmed, but we need to watch it. We don't want to see a rejection and a break back into the pattern. That would be suggestive of weakness, so you know what to keep your eyes on there. If we do break down, we do have underside RSI support, and the next thing to watch would be if we bounce on that daily RSI and if we can come up for one more kind of blow off top move. I'm not going to say blow off top for like the whole cycle, but for this local movement that we're in before things cool off and then we go and attack for another move higher. We do also have the robotaxi event coming up, so that could be an inflection point. Generally, I think that if it's in the press, it's in the price, so we're most likely seeing robotaxi event hype already priced in. If we go into MicroStrategy in contrast, you can see that we are continuing to find support at that $370 level. We had a little bit of a break below and then a bounce up today. We are also still holding that daily RSI support, but if I make that big, you can see we just barely bounced away today. So keep your eye on this, but if MicroStrategy is going to recover, we need to see a more decisive bounce away in the daily RSI there. If we do break down from the daily RSI, I imagine it would be at least a few weeks of consolidation for us and testing that at least $340 range right there. We could potentially go even a little lower to 320-ish, but I wouldn't want to see a drop anywhere really below there for us to maintain structure. But this is going to carry over to our pair trade analysis because right now MicroStrategy is into support both on the chart and on the RSI. And Tesla is a bit overextended in its RSI and it's into a resistance line. So it's something we have to think about. So let's go over to the pair trade chart. So if you look at the pair trade chart, we did have a buy signal today and we were into support at that critical 1.03 level. You can see how that's played support for the last several months here. And then as we got into after hours trading, we broke down from that. So I was watching this to see if we would bounce away because our RSI is also way overextended. And we are getting these mean reversion signals. So I thought before the market closed today, there could be a chance we see a bounce here, particularly as we saw in the charts with MicroStrategy into support, Tesla into resistance. But it does look like it's pushing on through. We're going to have to watch to see what happens tomorrow. There is a world in which, and I know this is the classic up, down, and sideways, and I don't want to be indecisive, but we need to be ready for every move. So I was thinking, okay, we get a reversal here at this support level. Let's be ready for that and ready to swap. Now, if we break down, continue to stay in Tesla, I still have a little bit of MicroStrategy I'm holding, so I would flip that into Tesla. If we're breaking down, we're definitely below the 38 level on the RSI here. It was a definitive breakdown over the last couple days back in the favor of Tesla. But the other scenario is if Bitcoin keeps rallying and Michael Saylor slows down on the ATM, and MicroStrategy catches a bid, we could chop a bit sideways for a while and not have such an extreme decisive trend in the favor of one or the other. Now, just going in full screen, if Tesla does go on a rampage and this breakdown continues in the pair, we need to be ready for where we might anticipate support coming in below. So I just drew in two lines here where we've historically found a lot of support and resistance. So one is at 0.93. And the other one I have drawn in at 0.80. So those are good points to watch on your chart. And if we do break down, that would be an area to anticipate a potential turnaround in the trend. I will say that if we look back in history, these kinds of extreme trends are not the norm. I mean, you do see some big moves like this occasionally, but more often than not, we're chopping around a lot more. And then every once in a while, you get these extreme moves in one direction or another. And this is the time to pay attention because these are the moves where you can really grow your bags. These little bits of chopping, yes, you can make smaller gains, but this is where the opportunity lies. So even if you didn't catch all of this, just be paying attention over the next couple weeks because if we land here or here and we flip back in the favor of being in MicroStrategy, that can be very beneficial to your portfolio. Okay, going over to SMH briefly for the semiconductors, and this is important with Nvidia earnings tomorrow because we did see this daily RSI trend line break down and we dipped back below the 200 EMA, found support and bounced away. But we are fairly toppy in this chart and it's just looking to me like either more sideways chop or maybe a bit more of a correction to close this gap fill to right here would be in the cards. If we pull up another name we've all been tracking, which is TSM, TSM has been a little bit stronger, but you can see the daily RSI is also breaking down, mean reversion has spiked, and we're starting to see a bit of a bearish divergence on the daily where RSI is printing lower highs and the price action is printing slightly higher highs. If we go over to Nvidia in contrast, you can see that Nvidia actually right here bounced away from its daily RSI support. So the bull case for earnings tomorrow would be that Nvidia just rips higher and goes into way overbought territory. but that would be your indicator that we're getting slightly overheated and most likely are going to put in a local top soon. If they really have an earnings beat, I mean, we're right into this resistance on the confluence model. I could see us ripping up to the top of the range, maybe peeking our head just above to make slight all-time highs if we do get very positive earnings. That would obviously bring the rest of the semiconductor space with it, but I'm keeping my eye on maybe the market being a bit disappointed even by positive earnings from Nvidia if they aren't of the multiple that the market is hoping for, and that could get us to see that cool off in the semiconductor space. So watch earnings tomorrow afternoon. Okay, moving over to Hood briefly, and you can see Hood also did break down from its daily uptrending RSI support. This was a very steep trend, so it's not sustainable. But we have been consolidating nicely right around all-time highs. And if we make this chart full screen, you can see that we actually just by a few cents broke above all-time highs today. So now that we've exceeded our target, we've broken above all-time highs, we close back below. If we see a daily candle close in all-time high territory, I could see this rocketing up fairly quickly to that next target of $83. And I would be anticipating that to land sometime around mid-July or so, because the speed of this trend has been much faster and more accelerated than the previous trend up. This is the time and price target from this previous trend here. We've talked about this in past videos. And if our current run is stronger, you want to see it hit that target quicker. So keep your eyes as well on Hood, getting it daily candle close decisively in all-time high territory. Okay, starting here with the first of the Bitcoin Treasury plays, which is ASST. And for all of these, I'm going to be on the 30-minute chart because the 30-minute chart has been giving me so far very clear signals of where to get in on dips. So I first bought this at like 275. Where's 275? There's 275. And on this first move up, I drew this simple trend line. And I talked about this in a video a few weeks ago. And as soon as this trend line broke and we back tested it and got resistance, I sold out. And then I waited, and then I was able to reload when the 30-minute RSI was decisively oversold. And then I got back in this trend, and right around here, I drew this trend line in, and I knew as soon as this would break down, we would have a bigger correction. Well, we were up 20% this morning to start the day, and then had a massive crash. Let's see, top to bottom. That was down 43% today. And luckily, I was able to get out, and I've been reloading down here because we bounced off the 382 level, and then we also hit oversold territory in the RSI. Now, a lot of these sold off today on the DJT or Trump media announcement of their Bitcoin treasury. So I think the space was just feeling a bit overheated, but still with this 30-minute oversold condition right here, and getting into the 382 Fibonacci level from this local range, that was enough for me to at least get in, and I know where I can set my stop loss below and mitigate my risk. But again, these move, like I said, that 40+% drop we had today can be very risky. So if you're not watching these and are ready to get in and get out while you're day trading them, I would advise caution. But things like simple underside support trend lines work wonders on small time frame charts like this. And just the other thing to be a bit cautious with right here is if this is a double top, and if we measure that out, that would put us at about $6.70, somewhere around there. Okay, moving over to DFDV, or formerly Genover, and they have really cooled off and dropped below the 382 level. But you can see that the 30-minute RSI is near the bottom of the range. We're printing a buy signal on mean reversion here. So I'm keeping my eye on Genover, and there has been this past support at $23. We did break that underside support today. So there is weakness in the charts right now, but these can recover and move up quickly. So keep your eyes on them. I would say anywhere between where we're consolidating right now and that $23 level could be a good zone to get in. I think you could maybe argue, I mean, this is not the cleanest head and shoulders, but you could argue that it's maybe starting to form one. So you would just want to watch out for a potential, breakdown, but it's not the cleanest, but yeah, it is something to watch out for. So one that I would love to do analysis on, this was Kindly MD, KDLY, and they just changed their ticker to NAKA 2 days ago. So even on the 30-minute chart, we have just lost all our historical price action. I promise I will go back into this on Friday if TradingView adds it back in to give us some more underside support. But this one did hold up a bit better today and really rallied from the $18 to the $29. A friend that I day trade with, he actually was in a position, he got out because if memory serves, the previous peak was around that $30 to $32, but again, we need the chart data. So he was just like, you know what, this is a good exit point because we're most likely going to hit resistance, and he took a decent profit there. Okay, the last one to look at is CEP, Howard Lutnick's company. This was one, if you recall, from a couple weeks ago, just with the weakness it was showing, and when we dropped below the 50%, I got out of my position, and it consolidated underneath and then had a fairly convincing breakout, and now we've rolled over, and I don't love that we broke below the 61.8 level here. But again, everything really got hammered today in this space. So if we can't break back above that 61.8 level, which is at $41 on the nose actually, that would be a sign of concern and something to watch out for. But if you did want to build a position in this range, the 30-minute RSI is definitely oversold. And you can see in this consolidation range here, we were riding the bottom of the 30-minute RSI. We don't have any mean reversion data on this one yet, but watch that RSI and see what this does. Because of all the resistance displayed, if we do drop down further, I anticipate we would find support that 50% level at around $35. And if you want to start building a position there, or even here, this could be a great invalidation for you to set a stop loss, and breaking above 41 would be confirmation that we're most likely going to continue this move. But we need to make sure that we set a higher low and then set a higher high if we continue to bounce away from here. But again, with all of these, just word of warning, be ready to get in and out quickly. They are volatile and can move violently. Case in point, let's just see this little move here, top to bottom, is down 28% roughly. So they move fast, you can get burned, but there's also a lot of opportunity if you can time it appropriately. So that's it for the charts today. We're going to get into way more detail on Friday with all the charts we normally cover, but I wanted to give you just a quick recap for now. As for Bitcoin and Solana, I didn't cover those today because we're just consolidating a bit. With Bitcoin broadly, I'm still scouting that impulsive breakout to 120K. Solana has the 200 DMA resistance overhead still at $180. If we break past that, 195 is our next resistance. So I hope you found all that to be helpful. I look forward to seeing you guys on Friday. Bye for now.